live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, welcome. It's a beautiful sunny Monday. A little chilly, but we are not complaining. I'm Lynn Cullen. I'm going to be here for about an hour talking. That's what I do. I talk. I'm not sure the value of that. This seems to be a time for people to act, and talking is not acting. It's not action. So I want to talk a little bit about that, which I guess we did a bit last week, too. I'm exhorting people now to act more than maybe they are comfortable doing, and also to challenge themselves in a extremely challenging time. I took the weekend off in that I did not turn on cable television. I did not, except to see the president land in Havana. I did watch that, but I did not. So I was not subjected to the stuff that has been making me rather insane, and will continue to. I'm just gave myself a break. And so what was funny is that when I'm giving myself a break from what's been scaring the bejeebers out of me, namely the Donald Trump phenomenon, which says, which we focus on him, but which actually, if we think about it, says more about us, the culture we've created, the America we've created. It tells us about our neighbors, even people we love and our families. It shows he might be the center of this maelstrom, but it's the maelstrom that is frightening, more so than he, I think. So, a few things. I was about to head off in this direction, and now I just realized I'm going to head off in this direction just for a sec. No, I'm not. I rejigger it again. I as you know, have, if you've listened to me for a long time, I have for easily 20 years, I think, had this nightmare vision of where we, and I don't mean America now, I mean humanity, about where humanity is inexorably heading. And to me, it seems so clear. And when I first started talking about this, I know people's eyes are rolling around and people are thinking she's losing it. And people are thinking, oh, geez, God, Cullen. And yet, I think the ensuing years have only shown that I was right back then, and I remain right. And in fact, anyone who doesn't see this, to me, is almost willingly blind. And what I am talking about is Darwinism and the idea that we evolve. And clearly, we are evolving, but we're doing it in a way that Darwin would be, I think, blown away by. And this is the fact that he could not have imagined the technology that is available to us. And I have little doubt, even watching how the technology available to us right now has altered my behavior, has altered my sense of time, has altered the way I interact with people, has had a huge impact on just me. But the same could be said of almost every human being on this earth. Now, is that good or is that bad? I think much of it is good. I suspect a lot of it is bad. And I see, as you know, the end game, the willing abdication of our humanity to machines, to technology. It won't happen like that, but it's like that in Darwinian time. Never will a species have evolved so quickly and outside of the have taken control of their own evolution. Let's put it that way, right? I mean, I ain't no scientist. I don't know boo about how this stuff works. I only see how we respond to it, how we become absolutely bereft without it, how we have come to see it as a need for our lives, and little by little by little, we throw off the kinds of interactions and the ways that Homo sapiens have communicated and sought out relationships and functioned in every way. Pretty much like overnight, we're making these changes. This has never happened before, ever. And I have said for 20 years, a lot of the angst you see, a lot of the sort of anger and fear that seems to permeate so much of human undertakings is a direct result of the fact that technology is changing our environment, our reality so quickly that we don't have time to catch up to it. No sooner do we kind of catch up than it's off again in another direction. Our institutions can't keep up with it. Our judicial institutions, law enforcement institutions, our educational institutions, our governmental institutions, our medical institutions, ethical, moral, our religion, nothing keeps up with it. So we live in a state of constant reinvention with the ground shifting under our feet all the time, and that is the very definition of instability. And people, I don't think, behave well in an unstable, uncertain environment. I mean, change is always disruptive, even if it's good. But the change we're living in is incessant. And not only, as I say, does a change occur, then that change is gone, and another change occurs, and that gone, and change. Now, I have said, this is the part where people thought I was nuts, and I will say it again, that human beings will cyborgize themselves, essentially. And that's what would freak Darwin out, if you would say, so look what happened. Look what happened. This particular species, the one with the big brain, the one with the curiosity, started to figure out how to do this, how to do that. Its tool making became mind-blowing. And little by little by little, it incorporated this stuff literally into itself. We will cyborgize ourselves. Thus, the loss of our own humanity. Just look at the differences in young people to old people, in their perceptions of reality, in the way they navigate the world. That will ratchet up. The thing is, this just keeps getting faster and faster and faster. Politics often puts me in mind of that Yeats poem, The Second Coming, but so does this. So does this. What beast slouches toward Bethlehem to be born? So with all that in mind, I pick up the Wall Street Journal, and there is a piece by a guy named David Gelernter. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. He is a professor of computer science at Yale. He is the author of a book that deals with what's called the spectrum of consciousness, how in any given day our consciousness changes. We start a little foggy in the morning, right? Then we wake up, we're very focused, this and that. There is a downturn mid-afternoon. This is, documented. We sort of go down. We then tend to come back up then for evening. And then as we begin to head back down, he talks about how our minds become less focused, become more relaxed, how then sleep occurs, and in sleep it is just total memory that takes over, which is what our dreams are made of, and on and on. So this is his area. He deals with human intelligence, but he says a big part of human intelligence is this spectrum and is our emotional selves. He points out, by the way, something I've known forever, something you know too. You know how you're trying to think of the name of that? I know it. I know the name of it. And the more you try to get it, the more impossible it gets. The only way you remember what it is you're forgetting is to stop trying. Stop it. And then bang, poof, it comes. This is the same thing that happens as we're nearing sleep. Our minds are as open then, they are just so relaxed that, believe it or not, and studies have been done and it shows it's true, the most creative acts, thoughts, the most great ideas happen in that state. That state. They do not happen with somebody sitting over a desk with their, thinking as hard as they can. It doesn't happen like that. It happens in this state of rest and possibility. Now, what does this have to do with artificial intelligence? He tells us that artificial intelligence, the people working on it, are not going to get where they need to go until they figure out how to make a robot brain work like ours, which means literally having these cycles, literally having this spectrum of consciousness, literally allowing for emotion. This is the big hurdle. He has little doubt it will be overcome. They will figure it out. And that is why he wrote this piece in the Wall Street Journal, which is a warning. Now, understand, this is a guy who understands how our minds work. He is a scientist. He is a computer scientist. So he's on the front lines of all of this. And he says people in the artificial intelligence community envision human-like intelligence in machines within a few decades. Okay? So maybe I won't be here, but Celine's going to be here. And she's going to be living in a world where machines are every bit her match. Now, that could be great. Because obviously, this is how they tout it. They can do so much stuff for us. They can take away a lot of the drudgery and the stuff we don't want to be dealing with. But here's the problem. This guy says, once we have figured out how to build artificial minds with the average human IQ of 100, let's say, and he says that's just a decade or two away, then, before long, we will build machines with IQs of 500. There ain't a human alive anywhere near it. With IQs of 5,000. The potential good is staggering. The potential bad, in terms of consequences, staggering. And he wrote this, I didn't. He says humanity's future is at stake. Now, what I've always said when I sort of know this in my gut, I feel it. I know where this is where we're going. And I then think, what is with these assholes? What is with these jerks? These brilliant minds. They don't think of consequences. They just keep wanting to do this more and more and more, and damn the consequences. And the fact is that is true, and there's no stopping it. This is inexorable. So we're on this road. And sure, we'll see wonderful stuff. There'll be apps. There will be apps that will literally read your email and answer your email. They will, not send it maybe without you checking it out. They will run interference for you in every way. There'll be a little voice in the collar of your shirt that when you're walking outside on a icy day will warn you that of the conditions of the sidewalk ahead. They will, for me, I would love this. They will tell you who that person is who's saying hello to you when you can't remember their names. So he says they will lessen the friction of modern life, all those little things that make us crazy. And he said, and within a year or two, living without them will seem unthinkable. Just like now, living without my cell phone, my computer. Unthinkable. But then he says, but we do not have the vaguest idea, because our brains are limited. We do not have the vaguest idea what an IQ of 5,000 in a machine would mean. And in time, he says, we will build such machines. And those machines, looking at us, he says, will be unlikely to see much difference between, let's say, Celine and an apple tree. Life forms. All so beneath the machine. So, when the scientists who are working on this stuff start telling us this, why don't we, I guess maybe there's a sense of, so what the hell are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? Tell them to stop? They won't. He goes on to say, robots with superhuman intelligence are as dangerous as nuclear bombs. And think of all of them. And to think that we would control them? How do you control something that is 5,000 times smarter than you? And he says, but these superhuman robots are the natural outcome of the robots we are now so hard working to do with ordinary. We want a robot like us. That's what we're trying to do. But it won't stop there. He says this is the goal of researchers working hard right now all over the world to make a robot that really thinks like us, that'll figure out this emotional thing, which they haven't done yet. They haven't done that yet. But there's little doubt they will. And then once they do, Katie, bar the door. He says technologists are in business to build the most potent machines they can, not to worry about consequences. I guess my response to that is why? Why are they not worrying about consequences? That's the part I don't understand. They choose to live in some Pollyanna world in which they think all this work they are doing will bring nothing but wondrous stuff to humanity. Yeah, the potential is there to do that, and the potential is there to blow the whole damn thing up and literally destroy us, one way or the other. Either through this willing evolution into something less human, which I think is without a doubt, But, of course, ever since I've been telling you my feelings about this and trying desperately to warn people for what, I don't know, again, it's unstoppable. But just because I sort of like to know where I'm headed, even if I don't like the destination, I don't like being a fool. I told you it was my son, my kid, who said to me in all seriousness when he was about, I don't know, 8, "Mom, you're lucky. At least you won't have to live under robot overlords." I told people that story right away, and everybody laughed at how cute it was. I thought it was cute, too. And then the more I read, and the more I thought about it, I found it chilling. So I'm just saying, this guy's, well, he says most scientists and philosophers, this is where he thinks they're all going wrong. They identify the human brain and human thought with rationality, with reason. That's what the robots they're building now do. They reason things out. You know, they beat Ken Jennings at Jeopardy. They're storehouses of information, and they can get at that information just like that. And this guy says what they're not figuring out yet is that emotional component. And as soon as they do, we're in a really dangerous place. Caller, hi.
Hey, Lynn.
Yeah.
Long time no talk. George from Moon.
Hey, George.
Hey, why'd you dash out the door last night so fast?
Oh, were you there?
Yeah, I looked back when you were getting all these public praising and everything, and you were yucking it up with your friend and everything, and I waved. You didn't see me, but I wanted to talk to you before you left, but you must have been going home to get your homework done for today's show.
I
huh?
I had a lot to do. I did. I was desperately trying to get out. I always think that thing goes on too long, but I thought it was a really great discussion. Didn't you?
It was. It was good. It was an eye-opener in some ways. And
we're talking, by the way, about the ACLU panel at the August Wilson Center last night.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, I don't know if you noticed this, but the wondrousness of America was on display on Liberty Avenue last night.
Yes.
Wasn't it? Because I'm standing there. I'm in the August Wilson Center, along with all these ACLU people.
I know what you're going to say.
And I'm looking out the window, and just half a block down on the other side is a sizable group in front of Planned Parenthood.
They weren't that big. But, yeah.
Well, they were bigger than they are I was stunned because it's not like Planned Parenthood is open on Sunday night, and it's, there's nobody downtown. I'm thinking, why are they there now? What is the point? And then somebody told me it's because it's during Lent that it's incessant. And I went over there. I thought, geez, I got to go over and see what's happening. So I left the ACLU thing and walked down the street to the Planned Parenthood thing, and they were praying. I mean, they were praying.
Well, let me tell you my experience.
Okay.
Me and my friend Barry were searching for a parking space.
Yes.
Barry and I got corrected here. Barry and I were searching for a parking space, and it was right there in the midst of the front.
The Planned Parenthood people.
Yeah, Planned Parenthood. And with crowd, and then we saw this painted line in the street, and my friend said, "Well, I think that's because of the parking zone." And I said, "Well, it's weird because it's a radius."
Yeah,
so I don't understand.
it's where it's
right. So we got out.
It's the circle that they cannot.
We got out and we approached them. We went over and said, well, "What's going on?" And a spokesperson came over and explained and everything, and started their shtick to try to sell us on the thing. And we kindly talked to them and everything and tolerated them everything. But I don't know why was there some event
No, I think they
Planned
do that.
Parenthood?
As I say, I was told that they ratchet things up and they're there every day now and every night because until Easter. But I'm thinking America. This is why, I mean, people,
right.
I'm sorry. Here is a peaceful demonstration. Here is another group, and we are as inalterably opposed to each other as we can be, and we're both getting down to our business right there. And I really felt, it makes me feel patriotic. It does. It makes me think, God, I love.
Yeah, and I felt like going across the street and rustling up some ACLU types and get them over there.
No, you don't want to cause
trouble. And I said, no.
No. I just went, and I went, and then I went and reported back, and no. Somebody said, "Are you going to give them trouble?" I said, "Of course not." No. They're why? I mean, they've got the right to do what they're doing.
It was an interesting contrast.
It was, though. It was.
At exactly the same time.
Exactly. So anyway.
I wanted to say, I wanted to talk you down on your fear
you
that
won't.
you're internalizing from this article from the side.
You won't.
Cool your heels. There is something that works also within existence that forestalls these forbidding futures, okay? And that's called Mother Nature and human nature.
Human nature is... Well, where's the human nature with these technologists who just want to...
Well, let me start with Mother Nature. Things do not progress exponentially they go so far, but there are things that happen in every... I used to be a futurist type myself, and all these futures that were always predicted from, in the last 150 years, for God's sake, since the Industrial Revolution. And they always extrapolated rosy futures or dire disasters, and they don't come true. They don't come true.
Oh, I think science fiction has been very good at being prescient, at prediction.
Who?
Science fiction.
Not really at all. I mean, I've been a follower for 50 years now, at least 60 years maybe. Yeah, and it's not true. It's not true at all. Futurists, and they'll self-admit it, cannot predict beyond 5 or 10 years. They cannot. They can make stabs at it and everything, but they are usually 90% wrong.
Do you mean to say you do not think that these guys will eventually figure out how to build these robots that are smarter than us?
They might, but other factors will take place that will depreciate it. Like, here's, for instance, what happens. Financial crises happen, and your so-called scientists that used to be flush with money and people loved technology, all of a sudden hate it, okay? You get a rise in the culture that goes against industrialization and technology. That's happened 2 or 3 times in the last 100 years. You get just a lethargy. You get a maturing of a culture. You get warfare. You get, sometimes they advance it, sometimes they retard it. But things happen. People, the human nature part, people change their mind about stuff. Values change within the society, and people make mistakes, and sometimes they make good decisions.
But
here's an example. One thing: the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
Okay. Dire predictions of a devastating World War III. Now, how long has it been? 65 years now?
Dropping the
Since
bucket.
The first nuclear devices were detonated and used twice, only twice.
Dropping the
Yet
bucket.
They built between Russia and us 80,000 warheads that were never, ever used. And this is now 65, 70 years after the fact. Now, there are still problems, but mankind is coming to grip with that. So that would have been the most devastating effect on human society, would have been the detonation of numerous nuclear weapons.
Which is still more than possible, obviously.
Oh, it still is.
Right,
sure,
yeah,
sure.
and in fact, it's more frightening now because we know that bad actors are, have fissionable material.
But
just because it hasn't happened in our lifetime doesn't mean much of anything.
Right, but it's been a long time now. It's been a long time.
In our measly minds. It's not a long time in human history.
No. But I mean within a couple generations,
so
nations have matured to put a lid on it and control it somewhat. There are 8 countries out there now that have nuclear weapons, and a half a dozen of them have backed off from nuclear weapons and given them up. So, see, I think this author, I'm not going to blame him for self-promotion or anything like that, but I got a feeling that he's trying to get attention to this kind of thing. It's a common thing to overly promote with dire consequences or rosy consequences any particular technologically.
Okay.
Thing.
All right.
I'm trying to talk you down.
Well, yeah, but you
your
can't.
Heels, think
yeah, but,
twice.
okay. I appreciate it, George, but I really feel like I'm correct. I hope you are. But I don't see it
Think a little
that
more
way.
about it. These things fall apart.
They
break. Mankind does not go on a continuous upward path in any direction.
So you're saying what will save us is some kind of a horrific downturn in some way.
Different kinds.
Right.
Yeah, look, you would have never predicted that that born-again Christians would be a major force in a party that would uproot a major party in this country. And you would never have predicted a black president when you did. I mean, there are major events. Shit happens. Okay?
It's come to that, has it? Okay.
It disrupts the rosy or dire predictions of technologists.
Okay, I hope you're right, but I'm sorry I missed seeing you last night.
We'll talk more.
Okay,
yeah.
Bye, George.
Bye.
Well, I just want to say this. The last line this guy says is, a breakthrough won't be hard. He's talking. He said as soon as somebody looks at it from a slightly different angle, it could happen 100 years from now, or it could happen this afternoon. But once it does, we had better start following developments as carefully as we would monitor lab technicians playing with plague bacteria. Just saying. All right, you guys whistle past the graveyard. I am not. Ray writes, beware the Luddite. You calling me a Luddite? Beware the Luddite that hides in every generation. The new generation does not fear the technology like ours does. I think they should. Generations have always pointed out the losses that progress brings about. But the fact is that we are more compassionate and civilized than we were 50 years ago or 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. The children around us are as alien to us as any space invader, but they may be just what we need. We are no shining example of perfection for the ages. These youngsters may lose some of what we call humanity, but they are also losing some of what we call prejudice and separation and hostility. Be hopeful. It's hard for me. It's hard for me. It's just my nature. So, George, the caller, mentioned that I was at this ACLU event last night, and I do have to, it was mind-blowing that when I opened my Post-Gazette this morning, there was an article that absolutely picked up where the discussion that we had at the August Wilson Center last night left off. And this was a panel that included Pittsburgh's police chief, the head of the state ACLU, an activist with Black Lives Matter, and Richard Garland, who is a professor at Pitt, and he also spent I'm not aware of how much time, but he did time in Western Penn. And he works with convicts and ex-cons. Caller. Hello, caller.
Hi.
Hi.
Is this Lynn Cullen show?
Yes, it is.
I just wanted to tell Lynn something I saw that reminds me of what she's talking about.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I saw something the other day. They showed a muscle on the inside of your arm that's getting smaller and smaller because people aren't using their arms or their muscles anymore because of all the machines.
Was that your triceps, maybe? I wonder what is.
It's
I think
on the inside of your wrist, running up your arm, there's a bone and a muscle, and they showed how they're getting smaller and smaller.
Okay.
Because no one's using them because of all the machines.
Yeah, right. I have little doubt. Well, I think is it true our little toes are sort of disappearing?
I don't know.
I mean, obviously, this kind of evolution happens over such a long period of time that it's hard to know. But I'm not surprised. I'm wondering if we're allowed to continue to evolve, that if we'll even have legs after a while.
Right. I know.
Right?
That's true.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
Yep.
Well, thank you for that. I
Okay.
appreciate the call. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. So anyway, we were talking about the intersection of race and police and what the what was called by the panel the not the justice system but the injustice system that we have, and how it much of what we conversed about with David Harris, who was here last week, and he in fact moderated this panel. But toward the end, he asked this somewhat disparate group, what can we do? What can the average... I mean, we're talking about these huge systemic things that stem from this endemic racism in our institutions, in our heads, in our culture, in every way. And how do we... I'll tell you, the chief of police started with, the first thing you do is we apologize. And he was talking for the police. He said, we apologize because we invariably were on the wrong side of every effort to move things forward. He's thinking about the civil rights movement. Anyway, I believe almost everyone on that panel said the same thing. We have got to stop this unbelievable, despicable urge we have in this country to punish people. We are as unforgiving a nation as there is. Do we recognize that about ourselves? We know the statistics that we make up just 5% of the world's population, but we incarcerate 25% of the world's population. Americans. 1 in 3 black men will end up in that system. 1 in 17 white men. The disparities continue. They're mind-boggling. They're outrageous. And what we do is when we stick people in these prisons of ours, and often because they're poor. That's the reason. We got debtors' prisons now. Or the poor don't have access to representation, which is their civil right, their constitutional right. And we sit here, we, the people, we elect the fools who make this legislation that puts everybody away, that sees everything as a crime, that sees, that wants to 3 strikes you're out and throw away the key, put them in, throw away the key, kill them, this them, that them. We are not like other countries in this regard. It doesn't speak well of us. So all of these people said, obviously we have to work on that front, and that involves voting. Voting. America is addicted to incarceration. And so we got to do a lot of work. We have to get rid of some of the sentencing requirements. We've got to reclassify things that are now considered felonies into misdemeanors. And here's what everybody really said. Once some poor soul gets stuck in our injustice system, we've got to look toward making that incarceration something that might help them when they get out. And this is what's called coddling in American political parlance. Oh, I get to have, steal a car and this and that, and then I go to jail and get what? A high school education? We react in horror. But our stupidity, because we stick people in these cages and they come out more dangerous than when they went in. And let's say every once in a while they come out and thinking, I got to change. And that's what Garland did. He walked out of Western Penitentiary and said, I got to change. He's a professor at Pitt now. He does extraordinary work. And so what this panel says is what we've got to do is stop the punishment of these people once they've served their time. They get out, they can't find a place to live. They get out, they can't find a job. We won't hire you if you have a record. You can't vote. You can't this. You can't have a driver's license. You try living with all those don'ts. You can't. It's like we let them out and then force them right back into crime just to eat. The stupidity of America's punitive nature is mind-blowing. So I left with all of this in my head. And then this morning I wake up and there's a front page story about an amazing business headed by an ex-con called 068. He served 21 months, the guy who founded this, for mail fraud. His name is Daniel Bell. And he uses this organization to train ex-cons, to get them on their feet. The stories you learn from reading this are so moving. And the reality of how difficult it is for these guys. I have a call. Caller, hello. Hello?
Hello, Lynn. It's Dave from Washington.
Hi, Dave.
Real quick, I got two things, and I got to let you go. You were talking about coddling prisoners in jail. How many times have you heard people say, oh, they're like country clubs. They've got cable TV and everything.
Exactly right.
So I always tell them, okay, well, here's what you do. You got a win-win situation. Go rob a bank. You can't lose. You get away with it.
Yeah,
You've got all this money.
Yeah.
And if you get caught and thrown in jail, well, then you've got cable TV.
That's right. You got cable TV. You might even get your GED. I mean, look, yeah. I mean, if you hear the people who spout this crap, you wonder why they don't want to get in.
Plus all the sex you could want in the shower. Then the other thing you were talking about is technology and kids these days. I see hundreds of kids a week. They don't know their phone numbers unless they look it up, even though they've had this phone for 10 years. They don't know their numbers unless they look it up. They don't know their address unless they look it up.
Yeah, but
Okay, you've got to go to the courthouse and do this. Well, where's that? Go down here, take a right, take a left. It's right there. They have to plug it into their GPS.
I know.
It's a half mile away. Just go down here, take a right, and take a left. That's
No,
what you got to do.
we've already abdicated so much of what used to be our own thinking to machines. It is amazing, and and you do wonder, what is that doing? What do we do with the time that we used to use our brains?
Yeah. Like I say, I see these kids all the time, and I ask them this every now and then. I'll challenge a kid. Who was president the day you were born? Of course, they're 16 years old. Who was president 16 years ago? And half of them don't know. But name all the Kardashians. Well, they can certainly do that. Kids today are just so unbelievably unknowledgeable.
It's not just the kids, though. I can't believe you're saying this. I mean, what about their parents? What about their grandparents?
Oh, I've had parents
they can't.
they're not
this is
sure
not
who was president when their kid was born.
No.
16 years ago.
No. Right.
And they don't know how to spell their names. Well, we don't have to spell my. It's very, very depressing when I see this next generation coming up. Yeah, there's some good ones in there, but there are also some that just have absolutely no brains whatsoever. And the parents, I blame the parents. Well, they don't teach cursive in school anymore. Okay, why don't you teach your kid cursive? And they look at me like, are you out of your mind?
Well, cursive is dead.
Yes, it is.
Cursive is
Spelling
dead.
your name correctly is dead.
Well, I don't know about that.
Bitch because they have to sign their name. Like, you know what, you stupid little kid, life is long. You're going to sign your name 1,000,000 times over the next 70, 80 years. Get used to it. And they just whine. All right, I got to go.
All right.
Thank you, Lynn.
Bye. David sounding like a cranky old man. I want to have this guy on the show. And then right next to this story about these convicts finally getting a chance is a story about an effort to put a similar facility in a church that's not being used in Clairton. And the people, the mayor, the folks of Clairton are freaked out. This, not in my backyard. Never mind that these are people who have served their time, who want desperately to find a craft, to learn how to be a carpenter. That's what they're being trained for, so that they can go out and have a job and have a life. Why do we? What is it about? I thought, hey guys, I keep hearing this is a Christian nation. If this is a Christian nation, what is it that all these Christians don't get about Jesus? My understanding, I'm a Jew, for God's sakes. My understanding of Jesus's message was about love, was about forgiveness, was about the least of us, is about helping. He didn't shun these people. He embraced them. How can you call yourselves Christians? It's just, like an Orthodox Jew has 613 commandments they follow. Hey, God almighty, not me. Seems to me a Christian has about one or two they really got to do. And that is about love and about forgiveness and about treating people well. And yet I see such an ugly face on so many. So, I'm just saying. And one other thing I have here. Wait a minute. Gigi writes, I know that you're not a fan of Michael Moore, but in his latest movie, Where to Invade Next, he looks at the prison system. Oh, God. He looks at the prison system in one of the Scandinavian countries, a country of Christians who live what their religion tells them. That's not Gigi talking, that's me. And it would blow your mind. No, it wouldn't, because I have read extensively about Swedish prisons, Finnish prisons. It's to our minds, it's unbelievable. And guess what? They work. She tells us that in the movie, Moore is greeted by a prisoner who's riding his bike on the property of this prison, in which there are no fences. He interviews a man and says, "So how many times have you been beaten up by the guards?" And the man laughs and says, "What?" Scenes of prisoners in the United States being beaten are interspersed. Then Moore asks him, "Well, so are you afraid to go to the shower? Because, well, you know." And the man laughs and says, "What? Why would I be afraid?" The camera pans to his private shower in his nice cell, which looks like a small hotel room. This prison houses murderers. This is not a white-collar crime prison such as we have here. I've seen this prison. I know exactly what prison you're talking about. And you know what? It works. It works. To the American sensibility, that is so mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. We are a punitive people. I credit our Puritan ancestors. I credit them. So many of them came looking for religious freedom, and when they got here, they denied it to others. Not all. I tip my hat to Roger Williams particularly. I mean, come on. Punitive, ugly. Okay, here's a little exercise. I'm going to do two things, and then we got to be done. Wait. You guys, you keep writing me, and I appreciate it. Mike from Philly writes, "My sister's a hardcore born-again Christian who does not believe in evolution. She sends my niece to a school that teaches that the Big Bang Theory and evolution is a myth. Anything that goes against the Word of God, basically. We had an argument about it, and I told her that as an educator, I know that once she gets out of grade school, your niece, she will be far behind in science. No matter, she said, she's going to go to a Christian high school. I said, well, then she'll be behind in college. No matter, she said, she's going to go to a Christian college. I said, then in life she'll be behind. My sister said that she doesn't believe in it and she isn't behind. But that's her. I told her, don't let your daughter have that crutch. We got into a huge argument. I told her I can prove evolution in two ways. One, I used to work for a pest control company. In order to control roaches at a place with that has an infestation, you have to change the pesticide every time you apply it. Why? Because those smart roaches, they build up an immunity to the pesticide. Bango, almost like that. If you mix it up all the time, they cannot adapt or evolve. This proves evolution. Two, we as human race are losing our pinky toes and our second toe is getting longer. This is scientific fact. We as a race are losing the last toe because we don't walk barefoot anymore and we don't need it. Also, the longer second toe provides the balance the pinky toe once did. She waved it off as that doesn't prove anything. It was at that moment I realized there's no teaching her, and I haven't brought it up again. No, there's no teaching anyone like that. There is not. There is not. Wow. Here is someone saying, I just signed a petition titled Pardon My Son, Edwin Walter Rubis. 480 months in jail for marijuana. Is this that case out of Missouri? I think I've heard of this poor guy. Can you? 480 months? What the hell? What is that, 40 years?
Yep. 40 years.
What the hell? Yeah, we're insane. We ruin lives. We take them and ruin them. Oh, my God. Okay, just saying. I'm not going to get around to doing what I wanted. But you know what I am going to do? I'm going to read this. I'm going to read it so much over the next year that we'll all have it committed to memory before it's over. I finally printed it out. This was written by William Butler Yeats, I believe, in 1919, after World War I, and it appeared the world was coming apart at the seams. In fact, it was just getting ready for World War II, so he was not incorrect. He wrote this, The Second Coming. And I assure you, it's not the second coming that those Christians that were praying outside Planned Parenthood are imagining. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. A waste of desert sand. A shape with lion body and the head of a man. A gaze blank and pitiless as the sun. It's moving its slow thighs, while all about it wind shadows of the indignant desert birds. Wind shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know. The 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born. Now, I have been reading that and reading it, and it takes some doing. Obviously, he sees this sphinx-like figure, a lion's body, a man of a head, that has been stonily sitting there for all this time, and it begins to move its thighs and begins this crawl toward Bethlehem. And what it represents, I assure you, is not good. But there are so many bits from that poem which live forever and are forever quoted, and nothing describes more our current political state in this country than the best lack all conviction while the worst are full of passionate intensity. And the center cannot hold. He wrote it in 1919. Okay, that's the poetry for today. Thank you, guys. See ya tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.